The golden lights of Club Lucente blurred into halos as Cheryl balanced another tray of overpriced champagne. Her feet screamed in the silver heels they made her wear, but she kept her smile plastered on. Tips paid for her mother's treatment. Pain was irrelevant. She weaved through the VIP section where Manhattan's elite pretended the world outside didn't exist. Laughter cascaded from corner booths, expensive cologne mixed with cigar smoke. This wasn't her world, but desperation had dragged her into it 3 months ago. And then, there was him. Mariano Russo sat in the darkest corner of the lounge like a king carved from shadows. Black suit, top buttons undone, tattoos crawling up his neck. He didn't smile. Didn't need to. Power radiated from him the way heat rises from asphalt in summer. Cheryl had learned quickly, don't stare at the boss, don't ask questions, and definitely don't fall for the man who owned the club and half the criminal underground with it. Too bad her heart hadn't received that memo. She turned toward the bar when voices stopped her cold. 2 men in the adjacent booth, Russians, judging by their accents, leaned close, their words slicing through the music. Tonight, 11:45, when he goes to his office. The guard on the East Hall is paid off. 3 shots. Head, chest, done. Cheryl's blood turned to ice. Russo won't see it coming. He thinks he's untouchable. Her tray trembled. Champagne glasses rattled. They were going to kill him. She glanced toward Mariano's booth. He was reviewing something on his phone, completely unaware. The fluorescent light caught the sharp line of his jaw, the ink on his knuckles. Her throat tightened. She should walk away. This wasn't her problem. She was nobody, just a waitress drowning in medical bills. But her feet wouldn't move. One of the Russians glanced up. His eyes locked onto hers. Time shattered. Cheryl saw the exact moment he realized she'd heard everything. His hand moved toward his jacket, toward the gun she knew was there. Her tray slipped from her fingers. Glass exploded across the marble floor. Every head in the VIP section turned, including Mariano's. His gaze found hers instantly, dark and assessing, a predator recognizing disruption in his territory. The Russian stood. Cheryl ran. Cheryl's heels hammered against the club floor as she bolted toward the back hallway. Her heart slammed so hard she thought her ribs might crack. Behind her, footsteps heavy, fast, gaining. She shoved through the staff door into the kitchen. Stainless steel gleamed under fluorescent lights. Chefs shouted. Steam hissed from industrial stoves. "Hey, you can't be back here," someone yelled. She didn't stop. The exit was 15 feet away. Safety, escape, survival. But her mind screamed a different truth. If she ran, Mariano Russo would die tonight. Cheryl skidded to a halt, her breath ragged. She pressed her palm against the cold wall, trying to think through the panic. He was a criminal. A killer, probably. The kind of man her mother would tell her to run from. But he'd never been cruel to her. Never inappropriate. The one time a drunk customer grabbed her wrist too hard, Mariano had the man removed so fast she'd barely blinked. He didn't deserve to be ambushed. She turned back toward the dining room. Then a hand clamped over her mouth. Cheryl's scream died in her throat as she was yanked backward into a service corridor. The smell of gunpowder and leather filled her senses. "Don't move!" The voice was low, accented Italian, not Russian. Her attacker spun her around. Not the assassin. One of Mariano's guards. Tall, buzz-cut, scar across his eyebrow. She'd seen him stationed near the boss's office before. His hand released her mouth but stayed close, ready to silence her again. "Why did you run?" he demanded. Cheryl's words tumbled out in a frantic rush. "There are 2 men, Russians booth 7. They're planning to kill him. Tonight. 11:45. They said the East Hall guard is paid off. They have guns." The guard's expression didn't change. His eyes were flat, unreadable. Cheryl grabbed his jacket. "You have to believe me. They're going to—" "He won't believe you," the guard interrupted coldly. Her stomach dropped. "And he kills liars." Cheryl's breath caught like glass in her lungs. "I'm not lying." The guard studied her face with the cold efficiency of a man trained to detect deception. Whatever he saw there made his jaw tighten. "You better hope you're telling the truth." He grabbed her arm, not rough, but absolutely unyielding. "Because if you're wasting his time, you won't walk out of this building." He dragged her back through the kitchen, past the shocked faces of the staff, into the private hallway that led to Mariano's domain. Cheryl's pulse thundered. Every instinct screamed at her to pull away, to run, to disappear into the Manhattan night and never look back. But if she was right, and she was, Mariano had less than 20 minutes to live. The guard shoved open a heavy door. The private office was exactly what she'd imagined. Dark wood, leather furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city, a desk that looked hand-carved. Bottles of liquor worth more than her rent. And sitting behind that desk, eyes lifting from a stack of papers, was Mariano Russo. His gaze moved from the guard to Cheryl. Something flickered in those dark eyes. Recognition. Confusion. Then something sharper. "Why?" he said slowly, his voice like smoke and warning. "Is one of my waitresses in my office?" The guard pushed Cheryl forward. "She claims there's a hit on you. Tonight." Mariano's expression didn't change, but the air in the room shifted colder, heavier, lethal. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin. His gaze pinned her in place. "Speak." Cheryl opened her mouth. A bullet shattered the window behind Mariano's head. Glass exploded inward like 1,000 screaming stars. Mariano moved faster than she thought possible, diving sideways as a second shot punched through where his chest had been. The guard shoved Cheryl to the floor. And the door burst open. 3 men. Guns raised. The assassins had arrived early. Chaos erupted in a symphony of gunfire and shattered glass. Cheryl hit the floor hard, her palms scraping against broken shards. The world became sound bullets punching through leather. Wood splintering, men shouting in Russian and Italian. Someone grabbed the back of her dress and hauled her behind the massive desk. Mariano. His body covered hers as another spray of bullets chewed through the office. She felt the heat of him, the coiled violence barely contained, the way his heart slammed steady and controlled despite the hell breaking loose around them. "Stay down," he ordered, his voice against her ear. Then he rose and returned fire. Cheryl pressed her hands over her ears, squeezing her eyes shut. She'd never heard gunshots this close, never felt the percussion in her bones, never smelled the acrid burn of gunpowder in an enclosed space. It was over in seconds. When silence finally fell, Cheryl's ears rang like cathedral bells. She opened her eyes. 2 bodies on the floor. The third assassin had fled. Mariano's guard was checking the hallway, gun still raised. Mariano stood over her, breathing hard, a cut across his cheekbone bleeding in a thin crimson line. His eyes were molten fury and ice-cold control. He extended a hand. Cheryl stared at it. Inked knuckles, strong fingers, the hand of a man who'd just killed 2 people without hesitation. She took it. He pulled her to her feet with effortless strength. His grip lingered a moment longer than necessary. "You heard them." "It wasn't a question." Cheryl nodded, her voice hoarse. "Booth 7. 2 Russians. They said 11:45. But they moved up the timeline." His jaw tightened. "Because you ran." Guilt crashed through her. "I didn't mean, you saved my life." The words were quiet, almost confused, as if he couldn't quite process this reality. His hand was still holding hers. Behind them, the guard called out, "Boss, we need to move. Now. They'll send more." But Mariano didn't look away from Cheryl. His thumb brushed across her knuckles, a touch so gentle it felt like a brand. "Why would you risk your life for me?" he asked. Before she could answer, glass crunched in the hallway. More footsteps. More guns. Mariano pulled her closer, his other hand moving to the small of her back. "Stay with me," he commanded. And she realized he wasn't asking. Mariano moved like a shadow, given purpose fluid, deadly, absolutely in control despite the carnage around them. He kept Cheryl behind him as they navigated through the back exit of his office. His guard took point, weapon raised. 2 more security personnel appeared from nowhere, forming a protective barrier. They descended a staircase Cheryl had never known existed, concrete walls, Dim lighting. The heavy door at the bottom opened into an underground garage. Luxury cars gleamed under fluorescent lights, a collection that could fund a small country. "Get her in the car," Mariano ordered. Cheryl's survival instinct finally kicked in. "Wait, where are you taking me?" He turned to face her fully. Even in the harsh garage lighting, he was devastating, dangerous, and beautiful in equal measure, blood on his collar, eyes burning with something that made her breath catch. "Somewhere safe. I need to go home." "My mother." "Your mother," he interrupted, his voice dropping to something almost gentle, "will be taken care of. I'll have guards posted at the hospital within the hour." Cheryl's heart stopped. "How do you know she's in the hospital?" A ghost of something, guilt? Regret? Flickered across his face. "I know everything about my employees." The admission should have terrified her. Instead, it made her knees weak. "You saw me," she whispered, understanding crashing through her. "That first night. You've been watching me." Yes. No apology. No explanation. Just that single word, heavy with implication. Gunfire erupted from the stairwell behind them. Mariano's hand found hers again. "Now, Cheryl." He knew her name. Of course he knew her name. She let him guide her into the back of a black SUV. He slid in beside her as the engine roared to life. His guards took defensive positions in 2 other vehicles. The garage door opened onto a side street. They peeled out into Manhattan traffic. Cheryl's hands trembled in her lap. Adrenaline crashed through her system, leaving her shaky and cold. Mariano shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. The silk lining was still warm from his body. "You're in shock," he observed. "I'm fine," her voice betrayed her, cracking slightly. His hand covered hers, an anchor in the chaos. "Why did you warn me?" he asked again, softer this time. "You could have run. Should have run." Cheryl met his gaze. "Because," she said quietly, "you didn't deserve to die." Something shifted in his expression, walls cracking, just slightly. "Now you belong to me," he said. "You understand that, yes?" She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt the strangest sense of safety. "What does that mean?" His thumb traced circles on her wrist. "It means I protect what's mine." The penthouse existed in a different universe than Cheryl's cramped studio apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Manhattan like a kingdom laid at their feet, marble floors, modern furniture that belonged in architecture magazines. Art that was probably worth more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. Cheryl stood in the center of the living room, still wearing her silver sequin dress, still wrapped in Mariano's jacket, feeling completely out of place. He watched her from across the room, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He'd cleaned the blood from his face, changed into a fresh shirt, but the intensity hadn't left his eyes. "You'll stay here," he stated, "until we eliminate the threat." "For how long?" "As long as necessary." Cheryl's exhaustion was turning into something sharper, frustration, maybe anger. "I can't just disappear. I have a job, responsibilities." "You have a target on your back." His voice hardened. "They saw you. They know you warned me. The Zaitsev Bratva doesn't forgive witnesses." The name sent ice through her veins. "I didn't ask for any of this." "No," Mariano agreed, crossing the room toward her. "You simply chose not to let me die. And now we're both living with the consequences." He stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head to maintain eye contact. "I pay my debts, Cheryl. You saved my life. That means something in my world." "I don't want to be a debt." "Then what do you want to be?" The question hung between them, dangerous, electric, impossible to answer. His hand lifted, fingers ghosting along her jawline. The touch was feather-light, but it burned. "You're under my protection now," he murmured. "That means you're untouchable. Mine." Her breath hitched. "I belong to myself." His lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. "Keep telling yourself that, Tesoro." He stepped back, the moment breaking like glass. "Dante will show you to your room." The guard from earlier appeared in the doorway. Mariano's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his expression went deadly. "Bring her to my penthouse," he said into the phone. Cheryl's stomach dropped. "Who?" she whispered. Mariano's eyes met hers. Your mother. Morning light poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, turning the penthouse into something out of a dream, or a nightmare, depending on how Cheryl looked at it. She'd barely slept. The guest room was larger than her entire apartment, silk sheets, a mattress that felt like sleeping on clouds, a bathroom with marble everything. Luxury pressed in from all sides, beautiful and suffocating. Her mother had arrived near midnight, confused and frightened until Cheryl hugged her tight and lied through her teeth about why they were here. A friend offered us a place to stay while you recover, she'd said. Isn't that kind? Her mother, weakened by chemo, had simply nodded and fallen asleep within minutes. Now Cheryl wandered the penthouse like a ghost, unable to sit still. Every door she opened revealed another room designed to impress. A library with first editions. A wine cellar. A private gym. A prison wrapped in elegance. She found Mariano in his office door open, an invitation or a test. He sat behind an enormous desk, reviewing documents with the focused intensity of a man who controlled empires. He'd traded last night's blood-stained clothes for a charcoal suit, hair still damp from a shower. He looked up when she entered. Your mother is comfortable? He asked. She's asleep. Cheryl crossed her arms, trying to armor herself against the way he looked at her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. You didn't have to bring her here. Yes. I did. He leaned back in his chair. The Bratva knows your face. By now they know your address, your routine, everyone you love. Your mother was the easiest target. The words landed like stones in her stomach. So this is protection, she said slowly, or interrogation. Something flickered in his eyes, approval, maybe. Can't it be both? He stood and moved around the desk with that predatory grace, every step deliberate, controlled. Tell me about yourself, Cheryl Stone, the parts that aren't in your employment file. Why would you care? Because someone wanted me dead, he said softly. Dangerously. And you appeared in the middle of it. That doesn't feel like coincidence. Anger flared hot in her chest. I overheard a conversation and made a choice. That's not a conspiracy. Maybe. He stopped too close. Or maybe you're exactly where someone wanted you to be. That's insane. This is my world. Insane is Tuesday. Cheryl turned to leave. Then she saw it. A file folder on his desk. Her name printed on the tab in bold letters. Stone, Cheryl, complete background. Her blood went cold. She spun back to face him, betrayal sharp in her throat. How long? She whispered. How long have you been investigating me? Mariano's expression revealed nothing. Since the night you walked into my club. Cheryl's hands clenched into fists. You had no right. I have every right to know who works in my establishment. Mariano's voice remained calm, infuriatingly reasonable. Especially when that person throws herself into danger to save my life. So you? What, ran a background check? Followed me? Her voice cracked with humiliation. What else do you know? Everything. The single word fell like a verdict. Your mother's diagnosis. Your eviction notice from 3 months ago, the debt collectors calling twice a day, your scholarship to NYU that you abandoned sophomore year when she got sick. Each fact struck like a physical blow. The coffee shop job you worked before this one, he continued, relentless. The landlord who raised your rent 30% because he could. The nights you skip dinner so she can have medications. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You have no idea what my life is like. Don't I? Something raw flickered across his face. You think I was born in penthouses wearing tailored suits? I know what it's like to choose between eating and keeping the lights on. I know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer because you don't have enough money to save them. The admission hung between them, unexpected and devastating. Cheryl's anger wavered. Then why watch me like I'm a suspect? Because I've learned, he said quietly, stepping closer, that the people who get closest are often the ones holding the knife. She should step back, maintain distance. Instead, she held her ground. I'm not holding a knife. No. His hand lifted, fingers brushing a strand of hair from her face. The touch was gentle, almost reverent. You're holding something far more dangerous. Her breath caught. What? His dark eyes searched hers. My attention. The admission should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like falling. Why? She whispered. Why me? Mariano's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, still close enough that she felt the heat radiating from him, and said nothing. The silence stretched between them, electric and impossible. Mariano's phone shattered the moment, vibrating against the desk with violent insistence. He pulled back, walls slamming into place. The vulnerable man disappeared, replaced by the Mafia king. He answered without breaking eye contact with her. Whatever the person said made his expression go lethal. When? A pause. How many casualties? Another pause, longer this time. His jaw worked. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He ended the call. Cheryl watched something dark and terrible move through his eyes, grief, maybe, or fury so deep it had no name. What happened? One of my warehouses in Brooklyn, bombed 30 minutes ago. His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands told the truth, curled into fists, knuckles white. 3 of my men were inside. Are they dead? The word dropped like a stone. Cheryl's chest tightened. She'd spent the last 12 hours thinking of Mariano as a threat, a captor, a man too dangerous to trust. She'd forgotten that people died in his world, that he was responsible for them. He moved toward the door, all business and cold efficiency. Then he stopped, his back to her. My cousin was one of them. The confession came out rough, barely controlled. Antonio, 23 years old, just got engaged last month. Cheryl's heart cracked. I'm sorry. Don't be. He turned his head slightly, profile sharp in the morning light. This is the life I chose. These are the consequences. That doesn't make it hurt less. Something in his shoulders shifted, the smallest acknowledgement that she was right. Stay in the penthouse, he ordered. Don't leave for any reason. Dante will be stationed outside your door. Mariano. I can't protect you if you're not here. His voice turned rough. And I can't lose anyone else today. The vulnerability in those words stole her breath. Before she could respond, his phone rang again. He answered immediately. Tell me you found him. A pause. His entire body went rigid. You're certain? Another pause. Bring him to the warehouse. I want to look him in the eyes when he tells me why. He ended the call and met Cheryl's gaze. We found the traitor. The warehouse in Brooklyn smelled like smoke, blood, and betrayal. Cheryl shouldn't have been there. Mariano had ordered her to stay at the penthouse. But when he'd left, something in his expression had terrified her, a coldness that suggested the man who'd touched her face so gently might disappear entirely. So she'd convinced Dante to bring her. The guard had resisted for approximately 30 seconds before her desperation wore him down. Now she stood in the ruins of what had been a shipping facility, watching Mariano circle a man tied to a chair. The traitor was older, maybe 50, with graying hair and a face Cheryl vaguely recognized from the club. One of the managers, she thought. Blood dripped from his nose, his eye was swelling shut. Luca! Mariano's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. The tone made Cheryl's skin crawl. We've known each other how long? 15 years? Mariano, please. I brought you into my organization when you had nothing, gave you a position of trust, paid for your daughter's wedding. He crouched in front of the man, utterly calm. So, help me understand why you sold me out to the Bratva. They threatened my family, and I protected your family. The roar came from nowhere, controlled fury exploding into the open. For 15 years I kept you safe, fed you, made you wealthy. Luca's face crumpled. They said they'd kill my granddaughter, 4 years old, Mariano. What was I supposed to do? The question hung in the destroyed warehouse. Mariano stood slowly. For a moment, Cheryl saw something that might have been understanding flicker across his face. Then it vanished. You were supposed to come to me, he said coldly. We could have protected her. Instead, you chose to let 3 of my men burn to death. I didn't know they'd bomb the warehouse. They said they just wanted information. What information? Luca's eyes slid past Mariano to Cheryl. Her blood turned to ice. They wanted to know about the girl, Luca whispered. The waitress. The one who warned you about the hit. Mariano went absolutely still. What about her? They wanted to know if you were protecting her. If she meant something to you. Luca swallowed hard. They said she's the reason you were targeted in the first place. The world tilted sideways. Cheryl couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. That's impossible, she heard herself say. I don't know any Russians. I don't know anything about. Luca's swollen gaze found hers. Your father stole from the Bratva 20 years ago. They've been looking for his daughter ever since. The warehouse spun, and Luca whispered the words that shattered everything. You're next. The ride back to the penthouse was silent. Cheryl sat frozen in the SUV, Mariano's presence beside her both comforting and terrifying. She couldn't stop hearing Luca's words echoing in her skull. Your father stole from the Bratva. They've been looking for his daughter. You're next. Her entire life had been a lie. Her mother had spent 20 years hiding the truth, protecting her from a past Cheryl never knew existed. And now that past had found her anyway. Mariano hadn't spoken since they left the warehouse. His silence felt heavy, weighted with questions she didn't have answers to. When they entered the penthouse, he finally turned to her. Did you know? His voice was quiet, dangerous. About your father? About what he stole? No. The word came out broken. My mother told me he left when I was 4. I thought he just didn't want us. Or he was running. His eyes searched her face, looking for deception, and left you behind as collateral. The accusation stung like a slap. I didn't ask for this. I didn't know. People lie, Cheryl, even the ones we love. He stepped closer, and for the first time since she'd met him, she felt afraid. You walked into my club 3 months ago, into my life. And now I'm at war with the Bratva because of you. You think I planned this? Her voice rose with desperation. You think I wanted any of this? I don't know what to think. The confession hung between them, honest and devastating. Before either of them could speak, Cheryl's phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. She pulled it out with trembling hands. The message was simple. 3 words that made her knees buckle. You're next. She showed Mariano the screen. His expression went lethal. They're not just coming for you, he said quietly. They're already here. The penthouse transformed into a fortress within hours. Guards stationed at every entrance, security cameras monitoring every angle. Dante and 4 other men swept the building for threats twice. Mariano had made a decision, and Cheryl felt the weight of it in every clipped order he gave his team. She doesn't leave the penthouse for any reason. If someone tries to take her, you eliminate the threat. Understood? The guards nodded. Cheryl stood to the side, wrapped in a blanket someone had given her, feeling like a problem that needed solving rather than a person worth protecting. Her mother had finally woken and was demanding answers. Cheryl had given her a heavily edited version, enough truth to justify the fear, not enough to break her fragile heart. Now her mother sat in the guest room, pale and frightened, and Cheryl had never felt more like she'd destroyed everything good in her life. Mariano found her on the balcony, staring out at Manhattan's glittering chaos. Your mother needs to know the truth, he said without preamble. She's dying. Cheryl's voice cracked. Let her die without knowing her husband's choices are about to get her daughter killed. Lying to her won't protect her. Neither will the truth. She spun to face him, and the tears she'd been holding back finally spilled over. I'm scared, she whispered. I'm so scared and I don't know what to do. For a moment, Mariano simply looked at her. Then, slowly, he stepped forward and pulled her against his chest. The embrace was unexpected, powerful, and exactly what she needed. I won't let them take you, he murmured against her hair. I don't care what it costs. I don't care who I have to destroy. You're under my protection now. Cheryl's fingers curled into his shirt. Why do you care? She felt, rather than saw, his hesitation. Because you saved my life, he said finally, and in my world, that's a debt I'll die before leaving unpaid. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was the truth he could give. The elevator dinged in the distance. Mariano tensed immediately, hand moving to the gun at his hip. A woman's voice rang out sharp, imperious, unmistakably furious. "Where is my son?" Cheryl pulled back. "Who?" "My mother," Mariano said grimly. And suddenly, the Bratva felt like the lesser threat. Isabella Russo was a force of nature wrapped in Chanel and diamonds. She swept into the penthouse like a queen inspecting a battlefield, her dark eyes the same shade as her son's, taking in everything with surgical precision. Those eyes landed on Cheryl and turned glacial. "This is the girl." "Mama," Mariano started. "Don't mama me." Isabella's English carried the musical lilt of Milan, sharp with disapproval. "Antonio is dead because of her. 3 families are grieving. And you bring her into our home?" Cheryl's spine straightened despite the fear crawling through her veins. "I didn't ask for any of this." "No, you simply walked into my son's life and brought war with you." Isabella turned to Mariano. "She needs to go. Tonight. Send her somewhere far from here." "No." The single word was absolute. Isabella's expression hardened. "You would risk everything, our family, our business, our name, for a waitress?" "I would risk everything," Mariano said quietly, dangerously, "to keep my word. She saved my life. I protect what's mine." The possessiveness in his voice made Cheryl's breath catch. Isabella studied her son for a long moment. Then she turned back to Cheryl, and something shifted in her gaze, still cold, but calculating now. "There is a gala tomorrow night. The Castellano family is hosting. Every major family in New York will be there." Her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "If you're truly under Russo protection, you'll attend. On my son's arm. Where everyone can see." "Mama, that's not—" "It's politics, Mariano." Isabella's voice turned sharp. "If the Bratva thinks she's just another girl you're sheltering, they'll see weakness. But if she arrives as yours, truly yours, they'll think twice before starting a war." The logic was brutal and elegant. Mariano's jaw tightened. "It will make her more of a target." "She's already a target." Isabella moved toward the elevator. "This way, she becomes a statement." After she left, the penthouse felt too quiet. Cheryl found her voice. "I don't have anything to wear to a Mafia gala. I'll have something sent." He turned to her, and the intensity in his gaze stole her breath. "Are you sure you want to do this? Once we walk in together, there's no going back. Everyone will know you're mine." She should say no. Should demand he find another way. Instead, she lifted her chin. "Then let them know." The gala was everything Cheryl expected: opulent, dangerous, drowning in old money and older blood. She wore a black dress that clung like sin, diamonds at her throat that Mariano had insisted she borrow. His hand rested possessively on her lower back as they moved through the crowd. Every eye tracked them. Every whisper followed. They were dancing when she felt it, cold metal pressing against her spine. A voice whispered in her ear, Russian accent thick. "Don't scream, Miss Stone. Just walk toward the terrace, or I paint this ballroom with your lover's blood." Cheryl's body went rigid. The gun pressed harder against her spine. "Smile," the voice commanded. "Your lover is watching." She forced her lips to curve, her eyes finding Mariano's across the crowded ballroom. He was speaking with an older man in an expensive suit, but his gaze kept drifting back to her. Protective, possessive, completely unaware. "Now walk." Slowly, toward the terrace doors. Her feet moved mechanically. Each step felt like betrayal. She should scream, fight, do something. The gun dug deeper. "He's very pretty when he bleeds. Would you like to see?" Terror won. She'd made it 3 steps when Mariano's head snapped toward her. Something in her expression must have given her away because his entire body went taut. Their eyes locked. She mouthed, "Help!" Everything happened at once. Mariano's hand went to his hip. 3 of his guards materialized from the crowd. The man behind Cheryl cursed in Russian and grabbed her throat, using her as a shield. "Nobody moves!" he shouted. "Or she dies!" The ballroom erupted into chaos. Women screamed. Men reached for weapons. The orchestra stopped mid-note. Mariano moved through the panic like death-given form, smooth, inevitable, terrifying. "Let her go," he said quietly. "And I'll make it quick." The Russian laughed. "You think I fear you, Russo? You're the reason she's going to suffer. You and your cursed family." Mariano fired. The shot was surgical through the Russian's shoulder, exactly where it wouldn't hit Cheryl. The man's grip loosened. She twisted free. Mariano caught her as two more guards descended on the attacker, dragging him toward a side exit. "Are you hurt?" His hands moved over her frantically, checking for wounds. "I'm fine, The Russian, bleeding and restrained, lifted his head. His eyes found Cheryl's. And he smiled. "Little Sparrow," he whispered in Russian. "Your papa sends his regards." Cheryl's world stopped. That nickname. Nobody had called her that in 20 years. Nobody except her father. The safe house was darker than the penthouse, buried somewhere in the Bronx where shadows swallowed secrets. Cheryl sat wrapped in a blanket, unable to stop shaking. Mariano paced like a caged predator, phone pressed to his ear, his voice a constant stream of Italian orders. "Little Sparrow." The nickname echoed through her skull, dragging memories she'd buried under years of survival. Her father, teaching her to whistle. Sunday mornings, making pancakes, his laugh warm and safe before everything shattered. "He's alive," she whispered. Mariano stopped pacing. "What?" "My father." "He's alive." The words felt surreal. That man knew him, worked for him. My father sent him. "That's impossible. The Bratva would have killed him years ago unless he's working with them." The realization crashed through her like ice water. Unless he's been with them this whole time. Mariano's expression went dark. "Then everything, the club, the assassination attempt, was planned." Nausea rolled through her. "He used me as bait." Before Mariano could respond, Dante burst through the door, tablet in hand. "Boss, we have a problem." The screen showed a photograph Cheryl and Mariano at the gala, his hand on her back, her looking up at him like he was the only person in the room. The caption beneath it was simple, brutal. "Russo's weakness identified. It's everywhere," Dante said grimly. "Every family in New York has seen it. Every rival, every enemy." Mariano's jaw clenched. "Lock down all our operations. Double the guards. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. "The girl dies at dawn," a voice said in heavily accented English. "Unless you surrender yourself, Russo. You have 6 hours to decide." The line went dead. War had been declared. And Cheryl was the target. The safe house transformed into a war room within the hour. Maps spread across tables, laptops displaying security feeds, armed men stationed at every entrance. Mariano stood at the center of it all, orchestrating his empire's defense with cold precision. Cheryl watched from the doorway, feeling like a ghost haunting her own life. 3 families had made moves against the Russos since the photograph leaked. Shipments hijacked, soldiers ambushed. A restaurant Mariano owned had been burned to the ground. All because of her. "We need to consolidate," one of his captains argued. "Pull back, protect our core territories. Pulling back shows weakness." Mariano's voice was steel. "We push forward. Make it clear that attacking us has consequences. They're using the girl to bait you." "I know what they're doing." Cheryl's stomach twisted. She was the weakness they'd exploit. The crack in his armor. She slipped away from the door and found Dante in the kitchen, cleaning his gun with methodical efficiency. "He's going to get himself killed protecting me," she said quietly. Dante didn't look up. "Yes." The honesty was brutal. "Then I need to leave. Disappear somewhere they can't find me. He'll never allow it. He doesn't have a choice." Her voice hardened. "I won't let him die because my father turned me into a weapon." Dante finally met her eyes. Something like respect flickered there. "Where would you go?" "Somewhere far, somewhere safe for everyone." She started to walk away when voices drifted from the war room, low, urgent, unmistakably Mariano's. "We send her away. Tonight. Out of the country. New identity, new life." Her heart stopped. "Boss, she won't agree to." "She doesn't have to agree. I'm not asking her permission." His voice turned cold. I put her on that plane myself if I have to. She's a target because of me. I won't let her die for my mistakes. Cheryl pressed her hand against the wall, steadying herself. He was planning to send her away. To erase her from his life, to keep her safe. She'd thought it was what she wanted. So why did it feel like her chest was caving in? Cheryl stormed into the war room like a hurricane wrapped in fury. Get out, she told the assembled men. They looked to Mariano. He nodded once. They filed out silently. The door closed, leaving them alone in the electric tension. You were listening, he said flatly. You're sending me away. She crossed her arms, trying to hold herself together, without even discussing it with me. There's nothing to discuss. I'm not cargo you can ship off when it's convenient. No. He moved toward her, expression unreadable. You're the one thing in this world I can't afford to lose, and they know it. Every enemy I have will use you to destroy me. So, I'm just a liability now? A weakness? Yes. The word exploded from him. You are my weakness, Cheryl. From the moment you walked into that club, you've been the one thing that could break me. The confession hung between them, raw and devastating. Her breath caught. Then why do you care so much? I'm nobody, just a waitress who needed money. You think I don't know that? His voice dropped dangerously low. You think I haven't tried to convince myself you don't matter? He closed the distance between them in 2 strides. But you saved my life. You risked everything for me. And now I can't. His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. I can't let them hurt you. Mariano. He kissed her. The contact was electric, desperate, everything she hadn't known she needed. His other hand slid into her hair, holding her like she might disappear. She melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt. Then he pulled away, stepping back like she'd burned him. That was a mistake, he said, his voice empty. Get some sleep. Your flight leaves at dawn. He walked out, leaving her shattered. Cheryl didn't make it to the flight. She'd been in her room packing when the lights went out. The safe house plunged into darkness, shouts erupted from downstairs, gunfire cracked through the walls. Her door burst open. Not Dante. Not Mariano's men. Strangers in tactical gear, faces covered, moving with military precision. She tried to scream. A hand clamped over her mouth. Something pricked her neck, sharp, cold. The world blurred at the edges. The last thing she saw was Mariano's face as he rounded the corner, eyes going wide with horror. He shouted her name. Then, everything went black. When Cheryl woke, she was in a warehouse that smelled like rust and old violence. Her hands were zip-tied to a chair, her head pounded. Every muscle ached. Across from her sat a man she didn't recognize, older, late 50s, expensive suit, eyes like frozen lakes. Welcome back, Miss Stone, he said in perfect, unaccented English. I apologize for the dramatics. Your boyfriend made a clean extraction impossible. Where am I? Somewhere Mariano Russo will never find you. He smiled. At least, not in time. Fear clawed up her throat. What do you want? Justice. He leaned forward. My name is Viktor Volkov. 20 years ago, your father worked for me. He stole something precious information that destroyed my organization, killed my brother, sent me to prison for a decade. Her father's theft. The reason her life had become a target. I didn't know, she whispered. I was a child. I know. His expression softened, almost paternal. You're innocent, which is why what I'm about to tell you will hurt. He pulled out a photograph, slid it across the table. A younger Mariano, maybe 22, 23, standing over 2 bodies, a man and a woman. Your Mafia prince? Victor's smile turned cruel. He killed someone you loved, and he's been lying to you about it from the very beginning. Cheryl stared at the photograph, her mind refusing to process what her eyes were seeing. You're lying. Am I? Victor pulled out another photo, then another. A timeline of violence, each image dated and documented. 10 years ago, the Russo family was consolidating power. Your father had resurfaced, trying to negotiate his safety. Mariano was sent to handle it. No, 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 no. The woman with him? Victor's voice was almost gentle. Check the back of the photo. With trembling fingers, Cheryl turned it over. Written in faded ink, Julia Stone, witness protection handler. Her aunt, her mother's sister, the woman who'd disappeared when Cheryl was 14, who they'd been told died in a car accident. He executed them both, Victor continued. Clean shots, professional. Then he buried the evidence and everyone who knew the truth. Tears burned down her face. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know the man you're protecting is the same man who destroyed your family. He stood, moving toward the door. Mariano Russo is coming for you. He'll kill everyone in this building to get you back. And when he does, you'll have to decide, do you forgive the monster who loves you? Or do you destroy him the way he destroyed everything you loved? The door opened. Gunfire erupted somewhere in the building, close, getting closer. Shouts in Italian, the sharp crack of automatic weapons, the heavy thud of bodies hitting concrete. Victor smiled. Right on schedule, he really does care about you. Then he disappeared into the shadows. The door exploded inward. Mariano stood in the wreckage, covered in blood. None of it, his eyes wild with something between fury and relief. Cheryl. Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer. He crossed the room in seconds, cutting through her restraints with a knife. She stood on shaking legs, and stepped away from him. Did you kill them? Her voice broke. My aunt. The handler. Did you kill them? Mariano froze. The silence was her answer. Mariano's silence stretched between them like a chasm. Behind him, the warehouse burned. Smoke curled through shattered windows. His men were clearing the building, eliminating threats, securing exits. But he didn't move, didn't speak, just looked at her with eyes full of something that might have been grief. Answer me, Cheryl demanded, her voice breaking. My Aunt Julia, the protection handler. 10 years ago, did you kill them? Yes. The word landed like a bullet. Cheryl's knees buckled, she caught herself against the wall, her whole world tilting sideways. But not. He stepped toward her. She flinched back. He stopped, hands raised. Cheryl, it's not what you think. You murdered my family. I executed targets. His voice turned cold. Distant, the Mafia king, instead of the man who'd kissed her. I was 23. My father gave me names. I followed orders. I didn't know who they were to you. That makes it better? Tears streamed down her face. You killed innocent people? They weren't innocent. Something flickered in his expression, pain, regret, something deeper. Your aunt was dirty, Cheryl. She was selling witness locations to the highest bidder. My family paid her to find your father. She took our money and warned him instead. 3 of our men died because of her. The words felt like lies. They had to be lies. I don't believe you. I don't care if you believe me. His jaw tightened. But I won't lie to you. Not anymore. Dante appeared in the doorway. Boss, we need to move. Police are 3 minutes out. Mariano's gaze never left hers. You're free to go, he said quietly. I won't stop you. I won't follow you. You want nothing to do with me? Consider it done. He turned and walked toward the exit, leaving her standing alone in the ruins. The safe house felt like a tomb. Cheryl sat in the guest room, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. Her mother slept in the next room, blissfully unaware that the man protecting them was the same man who'd destroyed their family. A soft knock on the door. Go away, she said. The door opened anyway. Mariano stood in the threshold, still wearing the blood-stained shirt from the warehouse. He looked exhausted, haunted, barely holding himself together. I need to tell you something, he said. The whole truth. I don't want to hear it. I know. He stepped inside, closing the door softly. But you deserve it anyway. He sat on the floor across from her, not close, giving her space, looking more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. 10 years ago, I was being groomed to take over the family. My father wanted me hardened, ruthless, so he sent me to clean up a problem 2 people selling our secrets. His hands clenched into fists. I was told they were traitors, threats to everything we'd built, so I did what I was trained to do. His voice cracked. I pulled the trigger. Twice. Clean shots. Professional. Cheryl's chest ached. I didn't learn who they really were until 3 years later. By then, it was too late. The guilt doesn't go away, Cheryl. It never goes away. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. Because I'm a coward. He met her eyes. Because the moment I realized who you were, that your aunt was one of my targets, I knew I'd lose you. And I couldn't. I couldn't face that. The honesty was devastating. I can't trust you anymore, she said, the words like shards of glass. I don't know what's real and what's a lie. Mariano stood slowly. Then I'll make it easy for you, he said. I'm letting you go. By morning, Mariano had arranged everything. A private jet, new identities for Cheryl and her mother, a house in Vancouver under a shell corporation, enough money to cover her mother's treatment for years. He'd given her freedom, and it was killing him. Cheryl stood in the penthouse living room, a packed bag at her feet, unable to look at him. The car is waiting, he said quietly. Dante will escort you to the airport. After that, you'll never see me again. Her throat tightened. This was what she wanted. Freedom from the danger, the lies, the impossible man who'd stolen her heart while destroying her past. So why did it feel like dying? Thank you, she managed, for protecting us. It's what I do. His voice was empty. Protect what's mine. I was never yours. I know. The admission hung between them, honest and brutal. She picked up her bag and walked toward the elevator. Stopped. Turned back. Mariano. But he was already gone, disappeared into his office. The door closed. Like he couldn't watch her leave. At the airport, while her mother used the restroom, Cheryl's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. A file attachment. She opened it. Security footage. Dated 10 years ago. Grainy but clear enough. Her aunt, Julia, meeting with a man in an expensive suit, money changing hands. Then Julia on a phone call, her lips moving. Russo's men are coming. You need to run. The next clip showed Mariano younger, haunted, standing over 2 bodies, but his hands were shaking, his face was wet with tears. He'd been crying when he killed them. The final file was a police report. Julia Stone, suspected of corruption, witness tampering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Cheryl's chest caved in. He'd told the truth. And she'd walked away anyway. Cheryl's hands shook as she scrolled through more files. There were dozens. Evidence her aunt had been taking bribes for years. Witness protection clients who'd been murdered because Julia sold their locations. Families destroyed. Children orphaned. And at the center of it all, the person who'd been paying her aunt was a name Cheryl recognized. Victor Volkov. Her blood turned to ice. Victor had been using Julia to eliminate rivals. When the Russos discovered the connection, they'd sent Mariano to clean it up. He'd been a weapon, not a villain. And Victor had twisted the truth to turn her against the one man trying to protect her. Mom? We need to go back, Cheryl said urgently as her mother returned. What? Honey, the plane. Now. We need to go back now. Her mother saw the fear in her eyes and didn't argue. They were halfway to the car when Cheryl's phone rang. Dante. His voice was tight with panic. Cheryl, where are you? At the airport. What's wrong? Victor's still in the city. He's... Gunfire cracked through the phone. Dante cursed. He's at the club. He has the boss. It's a trap. He's going to execute him in front of everyone unless... The line went dead. Cheryl's heart stopped. She'd walked away from Mariano thinking he was a monster. But Victor was the real enemy. The man who'd manipulated them both. The man who'd used her as a weapon against the only person who'd ever truly protected her. And now Mariano was going to die because she'd believed the lies. Change of plans, she told the driver, her voice steel. Take me to Club Lucente. Her mother grabbed her hand. Cheryl, what are you doing? Something I should have done from the beginning. Saving him. Club Lucente was dark when Cheryl arrived. No music. No golden lights. Just shadows and silence and the metallic smell of violence. She slipped through the employee entrance, the same door she'd used months ago when she was just a waitress desperate for tips. Now she was something different, something braver. The main floor was empty except for bodies, Mariano's guards, taken down efficiently. Victor's men had been thorough. She found them in the VIP lounge. Mariano knelt on the floor, hands zip-tied behind his back, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. Victor stood behind him, gun pressed to his skull. Around them, a dozen armed men. "Cheryl." Mariano's voice was hoarse. "What are you doing here?" "Returning a favor." Victor smiled. "How romantic. The girl comes back to watch her lover die." "Or," Cheryl said, stepping forward, hands raised, "you let him go, and I'll tell you where my father hid the original evidence." Mariano's eyes went wide. "Don't—" "Shut up!" Victor snapped, his attention fully on Cheryl now. "You're lying." "Am I?" She pulled a flash drive from her pocket, the one she'd found in her mother's belongings years ago, never knowing what it contained. 20 years of documentation. Names, dates, transactions. Everything my father stole from you, everything that could destroy you. Victor's expression shifted: hunger, desperation, greed. "Give it to me. Let him go first. You're in no position to negotiate. Neither are you." She held the flash drive over an open drain in the floor. "Drop it, and it's gone forever. Your life's work, lost to New York's sewers." The standoff stretched like wire pulled too tight. Then Victor laughed. "You love him," he said, almost wonderingly. "After everything he's done, you actually love him." "Yes," Cheryl said simply. "And that means I'll burn the world down before I let you kill him." Victor's gun moved from Mariano to her. "Then you die first." The shot echoed through the empty club. But it wasn't Victor who fired. Mariano had broken free, tackled Victor, and now they fought like animals over the gun. Cheryl dove for cover as gunfire erupted. Then, silence. She looked up. Mariano stood over Victor's body, breathing hard. Then he collapsed, blood spreading across his white shirt like roses blooming. "No!" Cheryl scrambled to him, pressing her hands against the wound. "No! No! No, stay with me." His hand found hers, weak but determined. "You came back," he whispered. "Of course I came back, you idiot." His smile was soft, fading. "Tell me, why?" Tears streamed down her face. "Because I love you." His eyes closed. The hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Cheryl sat with her mother's hand in hers, staring at the surgery doors, waiting for news that felt like it would never come. 6 hours of surgery, internal bleeding, collapsed lung. The bullet had missed his heart by centimeters. "He's going to be okay," her mother said softly. "You don't know that." "I know you." Her mother squeezed her hand. "And I know you wouldn't love him if he wasn't worth saving." Cheryl's throat tightened. "He killed Aunt Julia." "I know." Her mother's voice was sad but understanding. "Your aunt made choices that got people killed, baby. She wasn't the person we thought she was. And Mariano, he was just a weapon someone else aimed. How can you forgive that? Because he's spent every day since protecting you. Because he gave us everything and asked for nothing. Because love isn't about perfect people. It's about choosing someone despite their darkness." The surgery doors opened. A doctor in blood-stained scrubs approached. "Family of Mariano Russo?" Cheryl stood on shaking legs. "How is he?" "Stable. Critical, but stable. He's asking for someone named Cheryl." Her heart seized. "He's awake?" "Barely. But he won't rest until he sees you." She followed the doctor through sterile hallways to a private room. Mariano lay in the hospital bed, hooked to machines, pale as death but breathing. His eyes found hers immediately. "Cheryl!" Her name on his lips sounded like salvation. She crossed to him, taking his hand carefully, mindful of the IV. "You scared me," she whispered. "Good." His smile was weak. "Now you know how I've felt every day. I'm sorry for not believing you, for walking away." "Don't!" His thumb traced her knuckles. "You had every right." "I love you," she said, the words finally easy. "I don't care about the past. I don't care about the danger. I'm not running anymore." His eyes glistened. "You sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He pulled her closer with surprising strength, pressing his forehead to hers. "Then stay," he breathed. "Stay with me. Always." Outside the window, Manhattan glittered like a kingdom waiting to be claimed. And Cheryl Stone, waitress, daughter, survivor, knew she'd found exactly where she belonged. In the arms of a monster who'd learned to love. If you made it to the end of this story and your heart is full, drop A in the comments. But here's the real question. Do you think their story is truly over? Because Victor Volkov had allies. Her father is still out there, and the Russo family has enemies who won't forget. Do you want part 2? Because Cheryl and Mariano's story is just beginning, and the danger is far from over. If you're obsessed with dark mafia romance and want more stories like this, stories that make you feel everything, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because we're just getting started. Thank you for going on this journey with Cheryl and Mariano. Their love was forged in fire, tested by blood, and proven by sacrifice. But in the world of the mafia, happily ever after is never guaranteed. See you in part 2. Drop in the comments your favorite moment from the story. Team Mariano or Team Run? What do you think happens next? Should we do a prequel about Mariano's past? Who should we feature in the next mafia romance? And if this story gave you butterflies, broken your heart, or made you believe in dangerous love, share it with someone who needs a good dark romance in their life. Until next time.